Hello and welcome to the second RPM update. Basically, this is the ambient episode. I've made 2 tracks so far over the past couple of days since releasing the first update video. The first was created using a bunch of acoustic instruments such as a guitar, a guitar, a tongue drum and a kalimba, as well as a variety of sort of background, effect sounds, just to add sort of ambience to it. And then another one, which was created purely on the NTS1, is a monophonic synth, so just using its single oscillator and then its quite versatile effects section to create a full sounding ambient track. So pretty much the idea here is that these ambient tracks are going to be sort of the opening and ending of the album, as well as interludes throughout the album. I'm kind of planning to make a few songs in each sort of genre, so I've made a few sort of very drum breakbeat heavy type things, and then there will be a couple of lo-fi hip hop, or maybe a couple of electro tracks, or sort of whatever direction I decide to take it over the rest of the month. But the ambient tracks will be used to split it up. So that's pretty much sort of the plan here. I will show you the ones I've made already, and then pretty much create, I'm thinking 2 more, so I can have an opening and an ending, and then 2 interludes, so there can be 3 sort of groups of tracks. So I will show you firstly, I think, the acoustic instruments one. So let's get into that. We start with this opening sound, which is a cassette tape sample. That's sort of like the clicking of inserting a cassette, and then I'm assuming it's the cassette rewinding, and then getting ready to play, and then it goes into the track itself. So we've got 3 instruments that are actual acoustic recorded instruments. So firstly the tongue drum, and then a kalimba and a guitar. And basically, although it says 120 up here, there's no metronome involved. I was very much just, I recorded this, and then I recorded this, and then I recorded this, and I was just like, I started it off, and then I tried to play along with it pretty much, but not really in time or anything. So basically, all the way through, the guitar plays just sort of, so it's in C major, so the guitar throughout just plays C, G, and then the above C, and then the tongue drum and kalimba kind of switch roles. So at the beginning, the tongue drum's sort of playing a more melodic role, while the kalimba does the same as a guitar and just plays, the perfect intervals as more of a harmonic role. And then they switch, so the kalimba takes on a more melodic role and also is sort of playing a lot faster, and then the tongue drum is just playing simple notes. Throughout, there's a variety of different background effects. Just these 2 channels are panned left and right, and it ends off with a sort of raining ambience track. There's a few in here that include birds tweeting, and then also in this little gap between where the instruments stop playing around here, there's a chord sample that comes in, and I kind of just cut out a section that sounded right for it and added a fade in and out to make it really just come in this moment, and that's about it. And that's pretty much it for the track, so I will just play through it now. Enjoy. I think maybe some of the mixing and fading in and out of the different elements could use a bit of work just to, make it transition throughout the track a little bit more smoothly. But overall, I'm very happy with that one. I'm thinking that's probably going to be the opening of the album, just because of that, cassette intro it's cool or whatever. That's about the thought process there. Moving on to the NTS1 track, there's not a lot to say here. It's pretty much just a live performance of the patch. I'll play some of it in the background right now. Basically, it's a triangle wave with wave folding as well as a sub oscillator, and then a sort of very pad type envelope with a lot of attack and release, and then also a low pass filter with a bit of a filter envelope, and also some tremolo with varying rates throughout. And just moving around the parameters of all of that. The pitch is just a arpeggiation between C and the octave, and that's just being done with the internal arpeggiator, and the rate of the arpeggiator changes throughout a little bit, and then pretty much using a lot of effects. So built-in effects in the NTS1, switching between a chorus and phaser, as well as using a delay with a lot of delay feedback throughout, which I have done a dedicated video about, and then also just a lot of reverb, and at various points changing the mix of the reverb. So yeah, that's about the extent of that one. It's pretty much just a live performance playing through the patch. I think it came up to about 5 or 6 minutes, so I'm thinking that one might be the last track on the album, but again, not completely sure. If you want to hear the full thing, I will probably post it on Discord in my server, which, by the way, join the server. Now we're going to create a third track. I'm thinking for this one I'll just do it in the DAW with some synths. After recording all of that, I made a really cool sort of generative style patch in Cardinal, which is a free and open source modular environment similar to VCV Rack, and then it crashed and I lost the whole thing. So we're pretty much going to try and replicate it here. We start with a sound source, so I went with Platts or macro oscillator 2, and obviously there are a few different modulatable parameters here, so we're going to be making use of that, and then we'll just grab an audio output module and a VCA just to get us started, and then we'll just plug straight into here. So I'll just turn this first channel all the way down and then plug this in, and then we can slowly turn it up and listen to the signal. So on the left side we have all the pitched options, and on the right side we have percussive options, so we can just scroll through a few different alternatives here. Now I did go with the first one here in the original patch just because I found that the modulation was able to create a sort of very slow, smooth effect. A lot of these later ones, there's really sudden jumps in the modulation here, so I just wanted to avoid that a little, so I did just go with the first one, and we'll just do that again. Then I used an LFO module which had 3 LFOs in it, this one here, to pretty much modulate everything. I also got a filter, and I'm gonna grab another filter. I think I did use this one, but this part doesn't really matter too much which filter you use. I did a 4-pole low pass. We'll just use this bottom LFO, and we'll turn down the rate. We have 2 of these parameters to modulate, so I went with timbre and morph because I didn't want to mess with the harmonics too much. I did actually end up modulating that just in a slightly different way, so I'll just connect these 2 up and then change these frequencies to both be quite slow and also be different to each other. The other thing we're missing is the pitch isn't changing at all, so we're going to get a sequencer. Here we go. So it's called poly-Turing, so it's a Turing machine based sequencer. The Turing machine is a sequencer that every time it receives a pulse, it picks a different note. We can change the amount of steps in the sequence, and we can also change an offset and scale of the voltage that it outputs. Pretty much this sequencer will sort of create a constantly changing sequence. And the more we increase this, the more it gets locked in, which will make the sequence just repeat itself. So if you make it like a 4-step sequence, it's repeating itself, but then if we turn down this, it starts to change more over time, and then we turn it back up and it will lock back in. If we have fairly high amount of locking here, it will stay similar but always changing a little bit every time it goes through, which is kind of the idea I'm going for here. Having this defined sense of timing isn't really the type of thing I was going for. So what I did, and you might see where I'm going with this, I used an LFO to modulate the speed of the clock, but that's a bit too fast, so I'm going to use this spare channel on this VCA over here to change the degree to which that modulation is going. So I am going to modulate the harmonics now. The way I did this in the patch was a little bit different. I used a random source for it, and we're pretty much going to use the smooth output to change the harmonics here. So let's just have a listen to that basically. Turn down the frequency a lot. I don't want quite so much range of randomness, and we'll also mess with the shape a little bit here just to see what we can find a spot for. And then pretty much the final thing we're going to do is add some reverb. So I'm going to go back to all brands and just pick a reverb sound here. We will go with a stereo one. Now let's turn this back up and decide how exactly we want these reverb settings to be. I want a little bit more decay but a little bit less of the mix. So it'll be a really long sound, but kind of more in the background. We might also like to get some modulation type effects. Actually, all these effects are right here. Might go with this phaser, and we'll put that definitely before the reverb. So let's put it here, and then plug the output into both of these channels. And let's just see how this sounds and decide exactly what we want to do here. I think that adds a lot of sort of tone to the sound, and although it doesn't directly add stereo image, I feel like it gives a lot more for the reverb to use to create that sort of wider stereo sound. So I think we'll definitely keep that one in there, but I think that will just about do it for this patch. So as with all of the other things, I'll leave just the full recording that I actually put on the album in my Discord server. But for now, we will move on to the final ambient track for this album. So I will save this. In order to actually get this out as an audio recording, I will use the plug-in version of Cardinal and host it in the DAW, and then just record audio out of it for however long is necessary to pretty much create, maybe 3 to 5 minutes of just a recording of this. For now, let's just move on to the final track. So yet again, it is a modular patch. Originally, I was planning to make something with, a more traditional way with synthesizers in the DAW, but I just opened up Cardinal and created this and thought it was cool and decided it could work. So you're hearing some of it in the background right now. It's a 6-minute track, so again, for the full thing, just either wait for the album to come out, or if you want to listen in advance, feel free to join the Discord server and I'll be posting them all in there. The actual patch itself, as with before, we have a modulated clock pulse controlling a sequencer, but this time it's a chord sequencer. So this is Bomb, maybe, from Amalgamated Harmonics, controlling 6 separate triangle oscillators, and then they're all being mixed here with various panning. Then that mastered track is being sent into Feline from Valley, which is a filter with built-in drive. As a sound effect from the mixer, some of these tracks, and it changes which ones are going to it throughout the track. Some of them are going to this wave shaper, followed by a filter to sort of tame it back a little bit. Never all the way, just to very slight degrees throughout the track. And then the master output of this filter here is going into Cardinal. So throughout I pretty much changed how the clock is going, how fast it's going, how fast the modulation of it is going, mixed the different signals up and down, as well as panning them around, changing how much they're going through this wave shaping section, and then also changed the drive, cutoff, and resonance of this master filter, and pretty much used that, all those different parameters in combination to create sort of an arrangement of the track, building in and out. The only things I really made sure of was that we opened and closed on a C major chord, which is just the one chord of the key. Really I should be probably putting some more effort into actually varying what keys I'm in, but this was the default and I stuck with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you've enjoyed the little preview in the background just now, perhaps join the server to hear the full thing, and otherwise that's pretty much it for these 4 ambient tracks, which means it's also pretty much it for this video. If you have enjoyed this second little update about the ambient tracks for the RPM challenge, please do consider subscribing to my channel. I will be making more of these, of course, and also do consider joining the Discord server, not just to hear the music, but also to get involved in the monthly sample challenge that has just kicked off again for the month of February. So if you're interested in joining, please just join the server and get involved. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.